So let me just take a minute to introduce, and then you get to hear from our guest speaker directly. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Joe Shinakis. I teach communication classes here at the college. I'm also on the One Book, One College committee that helps choose the books that we're going to read and helps set up some of the events. The guest speaker that we have today is Mrs. Carole Ronane. I've had the pleasure of knowing Carole for quite a few years, and she taught English at Metamora High School for over 40 years and retired as department chair of the English program at Metamora and was department chair for the last 10 years that she was there. I started teaching at Metamora High School 16 years ago or so, and right away Carole and I became friends, and she became certainly a mentor to me as well. And especially when she became department chair, I remember having quite a few conversations in her room about teaching, about students, about my future goals, and about writing, about books, about all sorts of things. And I'm proud to have worked with her, and she's passed off a lot of wisdom and insight, not just to me, but to any student that was lucky to have her over her 40 years teaching. So she's left an amazing impression, and that's the nice thing about teaching, is you never know how many people you're going to reach. Hi guys, come on in. But the fact that she keeps inspiring, I think, is wonderful. So without further ado, let me introduce to you Mrs. Carole Ronane.
There we go. Okay, can everyone hear me? All right. First of all, I want to thank ICC for making this possible and asking me to come, and for all the people who work behind the scenes to get me here and to make this work, and the people who are videotaping. And of course, Mr. Shinakis, Joe, who is a dear friend and a colleague, who I was very honored to work with. When he was coming to ICC, I was very loath to have him come. And he had me talk to one of the guys here and give a recommendation, and I don't know if you remember, but I told him, you'll be damn lucky if you get him, and I'll be really mad if you do. But in spite of that, I recommended him highly, because he really is a teacher with a capital T, and that's something very near and dear to my heart. So thank you for coming, because like an actor needs an audience, a teacher needs a student, and a speaker needs an audience or a listener. And thank you for being here. First, I was not sure I was a good person to talk about persevering and persistence. I felt that was like a bigger issue, because I do agree it is a life skill that we all need. It quite often is a key to success, is just not giving up, not backing down to a certain extent. And it's a great theme for succeeding in almost any endeavor. I mean, you can find examples. Thomas Edison, when you look at what we know that he invented and we think, oh, he's a great guy, he had like 3 to 4 times more failures that he invented than the ones that we know him for. Stephen King, we were just talking about him. He wrote a book, a first novel, sent it off to something like 38 agents, all turned him down. He threw it away because he said it's trash, it's no good, no one likes it. His wife picked it up out of the garbage can and sent it to that 39th agent, who accepted it, and the book Carrie became a national success. The coach quote that everybody uses, a winner, the difference between winning and losing is the winner gets up one more time than the loser does. And so that perseverance is important in all of our lives. We're all here because we've persevered in some way. It's not by accident you guys are here, or that I'm here. But I'm going to share kind of my journey, hopefully not depress you with some of the stuff that's happened, but maybe go through some of the bad a little bit to get to the good, what's on the other side. First of all, I'm going to ask you to do something for me. I would like to ask you to close your eyes. Don't go to sleep on me, please, but just close your eyes and listen to me for a minute. I want you to think about this. Don't say anything or whatever, just answer these questions in your head. Have you ever lost a loved one? Have you ever grieved over someone? Has anyone ever broken your heart? Have you ever had a cataclysmic event that derailed your plans for the future, whether it's a weekend or the rest of your life? Have you ever lost something or someone very, very precious to you? Have you ever been physically injured to the point where it changed your plans for the future? Now, keeping your eyes closed, I would like to ask you to very quietly raise your hand just a little bit if any of those statements applied to you. I see you. Thank you. I see you. Okay, hands down and open your eyes. Thank you for doing that for me. Because what it told me is that almost everyone in here has had this experience. And yet, you are here. You persevered. You have gotten through some bad times. And there's going to be more bad times probably. But you have succeeded already. You just got to keep going with that. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's something that we all have to learn how to cope with disappointments and broken hearts and cataclysmic events. Okay. So what I'm going to start with is up here on the board. It's not over till I sing, because I'm the fat lady, right? But this is about personal renaissance, finding an opportunity to rebuild yourself, finding an opportunity to open another door. When one slams in your face, find the other exit, find the other way out. And an example would be this quote. Now this, like most Irish, is a little overly dramatic, a little bit, oh, the troubles I have seen. But the whole thing that you can't quite see there, it says, the world will break your heart. The idea that there is going to be in your life times where life seems to like kick you on the teeth sometimes. And it can be over a weekend, it can be over plans for next semester, it can be anything. But just to know that what you've planned for didn't really work out. And you've just got to accept that that is going to happen. But this poem, and you're going to find out that I'm an English teacher because I love quotes and books and songs and all this. This one always really got to me. It's called Not Waving But Drowning by Stevie Smith. And in it, a lot of people speak, but the very last stanza, which is up here, is one where the person who drowns speaks. And he says, as you can see, it was too cold always. And I was much farther out I was much too far out all my life and not waving, but drowning. And if you think about that, there's a lot of people that we see today. We see them smiling. We see them saying, how are you? Oh, I'm fine, I'm fine. And you don't know that they're going around the corner and they're going to cry. And you don't know that they go home and they're lonely. And you don't know that they don't know how they're going to take that next step forward. Because we wave a lot. Yeah, fine, no problem. But inside, a lot of us have issues that we're dealing with. And that seems like they're overwhelming us, like we're being drowned. Look at the people around here. Look at each other. You see somebody you know, smile at them. Someone you don't know, wave at them. Make a new friend today. You look at me, for example, and what you see is an overweight lady. I have got a heavy brace on my leg. I have got a compression stocking, which makes me kind of look like I'm 90 if I showed it to you. It's like a real old lady stocking. And I wear orthopedic shoes, which are ugly. Ugly. I think they go to school and they say, let's design a pair of shoes for people who need help, and let's make it as ugly and as heavy as we can make it. And you look at me and you can see my scars. You can see that something has happened to me because I wasn't this way all my life. So something happened to me. But look at yourselves again. You've got scars too. You just can't see them. You can't see the scars in your heart. or in your emotions, or in your head, the things that sometimes keep you from achieving what you want to do with your life. My scars are visible. I mean, if I took off my sock, I could show you more scars. But not every scar can be seen, and not every person who's struggling is limping down a hallway with a cane like I do. Okay, so what happened to me? I'm going to go back. I don't want this one yet. Whoops. Thank you. There we go. I'll get it. There we go. Well, my life was really pretty good until 2011, in the later part of the year. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am a native Midwesterner. I've lived in Illinois, Missouri, Michigan. I went to a local college, got a degree in English, got a master's degree from Illinois State University. I went to a lot of other colleges over my life, including Oxford University in England, which was quite a transformative experience for me. I got lucky because I was hired at Metamora High School. Prior to that, I saw some of your faces when Joe said, she's taught 40 years. And some of you went, I'm so old that the first job I ever had in my life no longer exists. I was a Kirby. And I don't think you know what a Kirby is unless you like 1950s and 1960s movies and books. A Kirby, when you go to Sonic and you park, there used to be in places like that girls, and there were girls, coming out, and they would take your order, take it in, and you would wait in your car with your family or your date, and then I'd come back out with a little tray. You'd roll your window down a little bit, and I would put the tray on your window, and you would eat in your car. They don't have that anymore. Even at Sonic, it's not quite the same thing. But that was my first job. I worked for a lawyer as a typist, as a receptionist. I worked as a librarian assistant. I worked as a TA in French. I also worked for the Illinois Association of Blind Teachers, but I ended up at Metamora, and I loved it. I loved teaching. After 40 years, when I quit, I still loved teaching. I didn't like grading. I didn't like a lot of the rules that were coming along, but just talking to young people, I loved. And I am so fortunate to choose a career that I ended up loving that much. But personally, I also was tremendously lucky and tremendously happy. I married the love of my life. This is my husband, John. Everyone say hi, John. I married him. He has 4 children. We have 3 grandchildren. He has been a fantastic husband and support to me. I hope I have done some things for him too. We lived in a small townhouse in Washington, Illinois. It wasn't very big. Joe was there, but it was furnished with things from our lives, our past, and our shared history, and mementos from our travel, art, books. It was us, and all my flowers, and I had a teapot collection and all this stuff. It was just a beautiful little house. At any rate, on October 20, 2011, I went to school and taught all day, and that night there was a parent-teacher conference, and did that. Came home, driving home back into Washington from Metamora, and at the stoplight that's outside on 24 in Maine, a girl driving a car refused to yield right of way. She thought she could beat me, and she T-boned me. She hit me directly right on my left-hand side, she was gunning it, trying to beat me. So my little car was destroyed, and I was very badly injured. I don't remember much about that. I remember fading in and out. I remember the smell of the airbags, which really stink. I remember moaning, but not really feeling pain at that point. And I remember a man came up to me, and he had sandy brown hair, and he looked at me. I don't remember his face at all. And he looked at me and said, "Ma'am, you're not going to believe this, but I'm an off-duty EMT." And he said, "I'm going to be here with you until we get you in the ambulance, and I'm going to hold your hand through all of this." So here I am passing in and out, and I'm talking to this guy when I'm alert. I can hear the sirens coming. I'm telling them, call my husband. He's going to be, worried about me. They say, we'll do it when we get you to the hospital. We'll do it later. We'll do it later. They had to cut me out. I couldn't move very much because I was trapped. And I could move my left leg a little bit, but my right leg, I would try to move it, and I could tell there was something really seriously wrong. And I just said, don't move it. Let them take care of it. And at one of the times when I was passing in and out, I heard a female EMT, when the ambulance got there, say, should we just amputate her foot here at the site? And I thought, because I was so out of it, I thought, oh. And then a man said, no, we're going to get her out. It's not going to be pretty, but we're going to get her out and let them decide at the hospital. So there's the first man who saved my foot. They had to cut me out with the jaws of life. The man held on to my hand the whole time. He kept saying, I'm here, I'm here. They got me into the ambulance, drove me hell for leather to the hospital. They were banging on the back of the division between the driving cab and the back because he was taking corners, I guess, too bad, and things were sliding around, and it was like, must have been like the Keystone Cops in the back with me. And they got me to the hospital, and I kept saying, call my husband, and they said, yeah, we'll call him in a little bit, we'll call him in a little bit. And I remember thinking they were so polite. They would say things like, do you mind if we cut your clothes off? Here I am, and I had seen my leg. I knew kind of what was going on down there. They said, do you mind if I sew up this little cut on your hand? I'm like, yeah, because what's going on down there is a lot bigger than that. And, but at any rate, they treated me very, very well. Finally, my husband got a phone call from a priest who told him, your wife is still alive, but you better come. So he came, and I remember, he never cries. I mean, not since he was a child. He's a very strong man. But when I saw him, his little chin was wiggling because he knew it wasn't good. And I'm like lying there. They were beginning to pump drugs into me. So the pain that had been, because I remember screaming when they were trying to cut me and move me out of the car. I thought, this is not very dignified, but but I screamed repetitively. And when they finally got me out, I was really glad it was all over. But now the drugs were kicking in, and so I felt, hi, John. And oh, you're sad. So it was a little bit disconcerting. At any rate, that was the start of about 6 months in and out of hospitals, 2 months straight, and then back in. I ended up having a total of 15 operations on my leg. I am literally a $1 million woman because, I tell you, medical expenses are a lot. In the hospital, to just kind of tell you a little bit briefly about the hospital, they had me on such good drugs, I hallucinated. And in my hallucinations, I taught school. My husband can tell you about this. I would get up and I'd go, and and John would tell the nurses, if you could understand what she was teaching, you would really learn a lot. So I was speaking in languages or tongues, I guess. I don't know what I was doing. I remember at one point, I was lying in bed and my sheets were kind of ruched up. And I was kind of doing this, or maybe I can do it up here and you can kind of see. And my sister asked me, what are you doing? And I said, I'm doing my filing. And as I said it, I thought, I'm not doing my filing. So I was beginning to come out of the hallucinatory period. But I did feel for a long time after claustrophobic. I still have a little bit of problem with that, but for a while I couldn't stand to be in a room without a door open, and I had to have a fan on me. Air had to be moving at all times because mentally I was still trapped in that car. I worried about keeping my job. The administration came to see me the second weekend, and I said, do I still have my job? And they said, oh yes. And I blessed them for that because it gave me a goal. It gave me something to think about other than what's going to happen to me tomorrow. It gave me something to look forward to. I hoped I was going to be home soon. This did not work out. We thought Thanksgiving, my husband's birthday, Christmas, I'll be back teaching second semester. None of that worked out. It was a long time. Did I think about dying? Yeah, I did. Because there were times it was just too hard. Just too hard. And I kept waking up and I was alive again. I was like, okay, well, we'll go through another day. And sometimes that's what you do. That's all you can do is just say, okay, get through today. Get through today. Why couldn't my life be like it was? I did the poor, pitiful me's. How many of you have ever done that? Why me? I didn't deserve that. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't this. But I did go through that. The main thing is I went through it. I didn't stay there. I went beyond it. And I think that is what really made a difference. I got put into a rehab. It wasn't too far from our house. It wasn't fancy. I was the youngest person there. Everybody there was 95 and dribbling into their dinner. They had dinners where the broccoli was yellow. They had boiled it so long that you could just like wring it out and try to eat it. I was not their typical patient, but I was where I needed to be for rehab. And they worked with me. And I want to tell you about rehab people. If you're thinking about going into occupational or physical therapy, these people are godsends. They work and do miracles every single day. Not just the surgeons, not just the nurses, and also CNAs, outstanding people. But the therapists worked with me so hard to get things done. And you end up doing things over and over and you don't go anywhere. They would put me on a table like that and they would say, I would sit on the edge, and they would say, using your hands, push up and stand up. And after 3 months of laying flat on your back, you can't do it. You just cannot do it. And then you feel embarrassed because you think, I've been doing that since I was like 3. You know, why can't I do this? Couldn't do it. So I would do it 25 times, 30 times. Next day I'd go down again. I'd do it 30 times again. I would fail every single time. And they would say, good, okay, we'll do something else. But the next day they'd say, do it again. And I would get so fed up. When am I going home? This has nothing to do with me getting out of here. I don't want to be here. I don't like it here. To spend my 60th birthday in an old folks' home was not what I expected. To spend Thanksgiving, Christmas, Valentine's Day, New Year's, all of these holidays was not my dream, was not what I thought I was going to be doing with my life. But then one day, I pushed up, not even thinking about it, and I stood up. This is after like 3 weeks of doing this. I stood up, and I went, and I sat down immediately because I was so stunned. But at any rate, I'll jump ahead a little bit to when I learned to walk. I'm the kind of person who overanalyzes a lot of stuff. So the therapist was so good because what she would do, she would not tell me what I was going to do ahead of time because I would get in my head too much and I wouldn't do it. So she said to me, I was sitting in a wheelchair and I had my right foot held by a woman because I could only put 15% of my weight on my right foot. And so using my left leg only and my hands, I had to stand up. And I finally got to where I could do that. And then she said, here's what I want you to do. Move your right hand forward 6 inches. Then I want you to put your left foot forward about 6 inches. Put your left hand forward about the same, not directly, but close. And then I want you to transfer your weight to your left leg, and then to your right leg, and then back to your left leg as you step forward. I said, fine. She had patterned it out so much. I was so worried about where do I put my hand. I took 2 steps before I realized I had walked for the first time in 6 months. And I looked at her and I cried. She cried. It was dead silent in the room because they were filming it. So I have film of me learning how to walk. It was amazing, but it took a long time. And they believed in me when I didn't believe in me. Let me tell you a little bit about what had happened in that crash. My left thigh, the femur was shattered. It looked like a jigsaw puzzle. I'm great fun to go through airports with. I have a titanium rod, I have a couple of plates, and I have screws like you would not believe in there. I am amazing in there. And my right foot, if this were my foot, what had happened, my foot had gotten caught up in the car. It ripped all this out like a shark bite down to the bone. I had a former student who came to see me. He worked for an orthopedic man. And he said, I told my wife about talking to you. And I said, really? Great. He said, yeah. I said, it's like talking to a living cadaver because you can look right into you and see all your bones and muscles. And I'm like, oh, gee, wish you hadn't said that. But they had ripped out my entire foot. And there was this huge open wound there. The guy who, my surgeon, put something in that looks like the Eiffel Tower and rebuilt my ankle, attached it to my remaining tendons and muscles, and to my bones. So I don't have a lot of feeling in that foot. I can't lift it up. I have what they call equine droop, like this. But I saved my foot, and 5 years later, I still have it. So when I say I stand up using this leg is like a jigsaw puzzle. And I'm here, and I'm standing on it right now. So they did a very good job with me. It was a long haul. I finally got home. I knew that home would not be the home I left all those months before because I was different. I couldn't run in and run out with the groceries. I couldn't go in the backyard and do my gardening. I had to change. I had to realize home was not what I left. Because you say, I want to go home. I want to go home. I want to go back the way it was. And you can't. It's going to be different. But finally, I did go home. And I was there for a little bit over a year. And then we come to the second thing. This is my neighborhood. Okay, that's the area I lived in. Until November 17, 2013, 25 months, that's 2 years and 1 month, after I was T-boned, permanently crippled for the rest of my life, came 3 times close to losing my foot. 25 months later, this happened. I was a direct hit. My husband got me down in the basement, and I'm going to read you a little bit of something that I wrote. I put on the Washington Historical Society page because they were collecting survivors' documents. And this is a little bit about I wrote about what it was like to go through that tornado. The lights blew. John kept repeating in his lovely, calm voice, "We will be okay, we will be okay." I clung to him and he held me safely. I heard incredible wind, a sensation of things rushing by, and John said I cried out a few times. I think I was reacting to the tremendous thuds that I heard overhead. At one point, I think I heard our Welsh dresser tip over and crash, and I thought, oh, all my lovely teapot collection, it's all gone. There were indescribable noises of impacts, woods creaking as if it were stretching, wrenching, and twisting sounds of items that protested being stretched, wrenched, and twisted. We stood utterly exposed in the middle of our basement room. It seemed forever. It seemed a few seconds. Suddenly, I felt like some giant had inhaled half the air out of the basement. I truly felt the air pass me by going up the stairs. And then maybe 5 seconds later, I felt the exhale. The wind came back down, and with it, debris poured down our stairs, including, believe it or not, the back of a car seat. Like the front seat of a car, the back, not the seat, just the back. It wasn't from one of our cars. That might have been the moment the house went. And then incredibly, it was all still and quiet. I heard no sound that told me that the tornado was leaving, but it was just silence. The basement was dark, but light poured down our stairwell. We could see the sky from the bottom of the stairs. This meant that the roof had gone, but I didn't want to think about the ramifications of that or anything else at that moment. I felt numb, but we were alive, and we were apparently unhurt. The basement held, although the staircase was piled with debris. John released me and went carefully up the stairs to the turn in the stairwell and looked out towards where our screened-in porch had been. He didn't say anything. He turned to his right, and there was a hole. He gingerly began to try to enlarge it to see out. He knew that I couldn't see out, so he was going to see what was there. And I said from the bottom of the stairs, "What do you see?" He paused a second, and then he said, "Nothing." Now, at this point, I thought he was being a man, not describing something. What do you see? "Oh, nothing." But then he turned back to me, because I said, "What do you mean?" He turned back to me, and his face was totally blank, and he said, "Carole, the street is gone. There is nothing." Now, a sentence like that can send you kind of reeling a little bit. You don't know how to take all that in. But he got me up the stairs so I could look out and see for myself, and everything from the ground up was gone. No trees, no fences. Our neighbor, which was only a couple of yards away, house was gone. The house behind that was gone. The house behind that was gone. The trees were gone. Clear over to 5 Points. Everything was leveled. I think my mouth dropped open. What did John see? He saw nothing because there was nothing left. Now here's where your mind goes into self-protection mode. I didn't think that this means that my house is gone. I think my house is okay, everybody else is gone. But it wasn't, of course. To make this more surreal, there was dead silence. No rain, no wind, just silence. And then sound came, and what I heard were screams. And it jolted me when I first heard them screaming, and I thought they were inarticulate. I couldn't quite understand what was going on. And I thought, are these, in horror, are these the sounds of my neighbors dying? Because when you looked out at this wreckage, there's no way they could have survived this. And then I realized that what they were yelling were people's names. Josh, Tanya, Ed. And I could realize there were people looking for each other, trying to find each other in the middle of all this wreckage. So I was relieved about that. So we stood, John and I, at ground zero of a tornado, almost an F5. And there's a funny thing about disaster. They don't tell you about, the smell after a tornado. It smells like fungal, like an open grave. But we get by on survival instinct. I felt oddly energized. I also didn't look forward or back. I was right there, right then. Don't look ahead, don't look back, just survive. I'm not sure how much of this was because John kept his head or I kept mine. I'm not sure how much did we achieve because really we were just pretending to be brave for each other. Or how much did we achieve because there was no other way to go but forward. I don't know, but we survived an almost F5 tornado direct hit. Let me show you some of what that looked like. That's our house and our street. If you look long enough, you can see, there's a dishwasher in there rather prominently. But you can also see what eventually becomes a doll or a blanket or some jewelry. This is from our driveway looking towards Flossmoor. This was a couple of days after because they cleaned out the street. Then when we first got out, there was no street. There's again looking back towards 5 Points. That silver car that you can see, let's see, what did I do with that? The pointer. Oh, what did I do with it? Yeah, well, never mind. If you look at the silver car, that's my car, and that car meant a lot to me. It was a new car to me. The reason it meant so much was not because it was anything other than just a car, but because of my foot. I had to learn to drive a new way using my left foot. And so when you look at that car, that's another SUV. We never did find out who that belonged to, but it flew through the air and landed on top of my car. And somewhere under that SUV is John's car. So you can imagine how that kind of felt to see that. There's my car, what was left of it. There's John, and that's the hole we climbed out of. That's how we survived. And for me, because I wasn't wearing my brace, I had to have people pull me out. I literally stood on my husband's back. He knelt in the stairwell, I got on his back, and the men reached down, with a waterfall of arms and just raised me out to get me out. But that's the way we got back in, too. So, any rate, there he is directing some of the cleanup, I guess, looking for our stuff, what was left. So it was quite devastating. So in 25 months, a lot happened to me. I am really looking forward to a drama-free life for the rest of my life. I am looking for just a nice old age. But there's some things I learned, and that's, I think, the real purpose of being here. Not to tell you what happened to me so much, but to share with you what I got out of it. By surviving, what do you get? So things I learned. There's no armor against life. You think bad things happen to other people. You look at me and you think, oh, that poor lady, didn't she go through a lot? Something, God forbid, but something bad can happen to anybody at any time. And you've got to keep that in your head a little bit, because you've got to realize, be grateful for what you have right now, because it's pretty precious. The future is lovely, but you don't live there yet. You have now. So there is no armor against life. Things are going to happen. Second thing, you will always find an angel. You are never alone. Even when they're talking about cutting off your foot at the scene of the accident, even when you are alone and you're crying and you're upset about stuff, there is somebody you can reach out to. And sometimes it's strangers. I can't tell you the number of people who helped me that I had never met before. They didn't know me from anybody, and they went out of their way to reach out. Now, angels are not always easy to see, because I use it as somebody who comes in and kind of envelops you in their warmth and helps you. They don't have wings, don't have halos that I've seen. But if you want to see one angel, there he is. Oh. Without him, I would not be here, because for all the time I was in the hospital and rehab, my morning started when his little face came around the corner with a big smile, no matter how bad things looked. Hi! And I relied on that. I needed that. So there's my angel. There's one. Now I've got a lot. The EMT guy, I can't tell you enough about my surgeons. If you need an orthopedic surgeon or a plastic surgeon, I got the guys for you. I had nursing care like you wouldn't believe. I had a woman who came in at OSF to clean my room. She would sing as she cleaned my room. She would bring me prayers to St. Jude, because that's how bad I was. But also for the patron saint of teachers. She would pray for me, and she'd walk out singing, going, I pray for you. The CNAs that were there to help me, just incredible. Physical therapists, people who reached out that I hadn't seen in ages. After the tornado, I had a student I had the first year I taught. She lived in Rockford. I haven't seen her since. That's 40 years. She heard about what happened to us, losing our home and everything we had. She told her church. They put together a packet of gift cards, and her sister came down with herself and gave it to us. I haven't seen this girl in 40 years. And here's an angel reaching out 40 years later saying, hey, here you go. So amazing. You are never alone. You may feel alone. Look around. There's an angel. If I can help you, I'll help you. Mr. Shanakis will help you. Somebody is there. You just got to look and not be afraid to say, I might be not waving right now. I might need some help. Your mind blanks out some things. Immediately after the crash, I don't remember a lot, except that when I would pass out, the blackness, I never saw the light at the end of the tunnel or anything, but the blackness felt animated. It felt like a blanket, a black velvet blanket that would come around me and say, it's okay, go away, you'll come back. And I really looked forward to passing out. I hate to say this, but I did. It really was like, oh, okay, that was fine. But your mind blanks out sometimes because you can't handle it. And just trust your body, trust your mind. It'll get you through a lot. Denial is not always bad. I have a really bad thing to say. I have lived in denial for a long time. I know I'm in denial, so don't worry, I'm not delusional. But sometimes you just have to deny. There are some mornings when I get up and it's painful because every step I take hurts. It is bad. And I say to myself, I don't know if I can get on. I can't go on anymore. But what I tell myself, and smile into your sleeve on this one, I just broke my leg and it's going to be 6 weeks and it'll be over. I've only have to do it for 6 weeks. You've all broken something, right? No, you haven't? Lucky you. Good for you. Be careful. But if you have broken a leg or something, it's about 6 weeks before everything's back to normal. And I just tell myself in 6 weeks, I don't have to use that stinking cane. I won't have this heavy brace on my leg. I won't trip over myself, and I waddle when I walk, like a Weebles. I won't do that anymore. And if that's the way, what you have to do to get yourself through the day, do it. There's no one that says this is the way you have to do it. If you have to say, I'm in denial about this, just say, yeah, it's just not forever. It's just for today. Tomorrow will be better or different, even if you know it's not. It's going to be the same. Obstacles are opportunities. When something comes in and takes away your mobility, it changes the way you look at things. It also means that you have to punt. You have to decide, what are my new goals? I retired earlier than I was going to. We just got back from spending 2 months in Florida this year. I didn't think I could do that. Other opportunities arise. It takes a while because you've got to grieve the old, but something new comes. And when it comes, you can make it wonderful again. It's all up to you. I mean, an obstacle, think about a story. Mr. Shanakis writes books. A story, if you just say, I got up in the morning, I did this, 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 that's a timeline. That's not a story. A story is, I got up in the morning, I did this, and then suddenly, wham, that happened. Oh my gosh. Do I go over the obstacle? Do I go around it? Do I go under it? Do I blow up the obstacle? What do I do? That's where your story comes in. Not a timeline, but hitting an obstacle and dealing with it. So as an English teacher, that's one way I look at it. Breathe. You don't have to do it today. You don't have to do it tomorrow. I told you I would push myself up 30 times and fail. That's okay. Come back tomorrow, I'll do it again. And then tomorrow, do it again. And tomorrow, I'll do it again. And then one day, suddenly, you stand up. And there you are. Just breathe. Take it easy. Be gentle with yourself. Don't expect miracles of you. Not at once. They'll come, but not at once. Can you tell I'm an English teacher? Do you guys have songs that just inspire the heck out of you sometimes? That just get into your heart and you just, my brother understands me. Literature is like that for me. I read books from the past, from the present, and I'm going, we are simpatico. I may never meet this person. They may be dead for hundreds of years, but they understand me. I know what they were talking about. One quote from Samuel Beckett, who's an Irish Nobel laureate in literature. I was reading I think this was after the crash. I was reading one of his plays, and one of his characters says, I can't go on, I'll go on. And I knew what he meant. I went, yes, Sam. Because I understood what he was going through. So read great literature. Read what great minds have thought about stuff. And you will find inspiration. Listen to good music. Listen to that stuff. And it doesn't have to be a certain type of music. Just listen to the lyrics because they're talking about life. And you'll find a sentence or a stanza and you'll go, yeah. Okay. Be aware that friends may drift away. Right after some tragedy happens, everybody comes to help because you need it. But be aware also that you're going to lose, if it's tragic, you're going to lose some friends because they don't want to be too close to tragedy or somebody who may ask something of them. And it's not their fault. It's not your fault. Just be aware that other friends will come. Things change, but life goes on. and it's still going to be good. Have a goal to work towards, even if you have to create one. For me, the best thing was when the administrator said, yes, you have your job, come back. I had students that I had not even had in class yet who said, you taught my cousin, you taught my brother, you taught my aunt. Please come back, I want to have you in class next year. And I thought, bless you, because it gave me something to work for. Vow to be a better person. This is something really important. I do not feel that I deserve all of the love and attention that I got from people that I had lost contact with. People came out of the woodwork, strangers, everybody, to help John and me through this. I don't think I deserved it. I need to be a better person. And I've been trying, it's a process. But I'm trying to be a better person because I want to be there if someone ever needs me. I don't want to say, oh, maybe I should have done something. I want to remember what it felt like to have nothing, literally, to be homeless and crippled without a brace, nothing. And to have people reach out and not be afraid to say, hey, lean on me for a little bit. I'll get you through. And value today. You don't have tomorrow. You can worry about it, but it won't do any good. You don't have yesterday. That's already written in stone. What you have is right now. What are you going to do now? And that's what you've got to focus on. Don't worry about tomorrow. Just right now, do the best you can. This is a song I love. I don't know if you've ever heard this. It's a country western song. Look at those lyrics. They fit me so well. Shattered leg, my life in pieces on the floor. And you think you're never going to get back. But yesterday's a closing door. You don't live there anymore. Look at the last stanza, beginning. Just let that word wash over you. It's all right now. Get back up, take one step. Leave the darkness. Your story is far from over, and your journey's just begun. And that's true when things get you down. That's yesterday. Have a cry. Tweet about it. But then let it go. We could all go into the song, right? Let it go. But let it go. Inspirational quotes. I'm going to close with some of these real quick. Fill your life with adventures. I went on Facebook, and you know how you have these little things that you can log into, and they come up with, here's a quote for you. Here is what you're going to look like in 80 years, and here's this, that, and the other. So they said, life quote for Carole Ronane. Pressed it, this is what it came up with. My God, I thought, that is it. I lost everything I owned. But I didn't, because I have my family, I've got my friends, I've got you to listen to me. I've got it all. This from Tennyson, and this is something that I think you have to be a little bit older. I'm not the way I was when I was 20. I don't look like it, don't walk like it, don't act like it. I'm not the way I was when I was 30, but though much is taken, much still abides. And though I'm not as strong or as young or as attractive or as whatever as I was when I was young, there's still more to do. I'm not done yet. To strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. This I love. I don't know who said this, but isn't that true? Don't let other people sink your ship. Don't let what's happening around you get inside you and weigh you down. Find a way to float, even just for today. And this one I love. You either get better or you get bitter. It's up to you, it's attitude. Persevering, persisting. The choice is not fate. The choice is how you look at it and what you do with it. And this I love. Have you ever seen this movie? You gotta see it. It's a cult movie. It's very small. Not a big movie at all in that sense, but it was fantastic. The guy from Slumdog Millionaire and from Lion was in it. He is phenomenal. He says this line, everything is hitting the fan, everything is just going down the tubes, and he says to Judi Dench, everything will be all right in the end. If it's not all right, then it's not the end. And that's true. If it's not right, then it's not the end. I can do something still to make it better, to make it nicer. And this Remember I talked about scars at the beginning, how you all have scars? Someone sent me this, and I love it. A scar is never ugly. Now, I used to tell people that at Halloween time, if I swallowed a candle, I would look like a jack-o'-lantern if the light shone out from all the scars I have. After 15 operations, I could be the bride of Frankenstein. But a scar is never ugly. We must see that all scars are beautiful, okay? This will be our secret, because take it from me, a scar does not form on the dying. A scar means I survived. I persisted. I didn't give up. I cried a lot. But the thing about tears is that you never run out of them. They come back. So go on, persevering. The secret to life, to finding success when life kicks you in the teeth a few times, is just saying, I survived. And I got up in the morning and I did one thing that day. And the next day I did one thing. And then in a week I did two things. And before long, you're better. I want to thank you. John, do you want to say anything?
Oh, up to that.
If you have any questions or anything, I want to thank you for listening to me and putting up with a lady who's falling apart over here because I'm hooked up to stuff. Do you have any questions or any comments? No? I scared you all. Yeah.
This is kind of not necessarily all related, but
Yeah.
you went to Oxford. Did
Yeah.
Richard Dawkins have him for anything, or?
No, I'm an English person, so my husband would have adored getting hold of Dawkins. I will tell you that I went to University College, which is where Percy Shelley was a student, also a couple of prime ministers, and also where Bill Clinton went for a year. And when I went out the back of our quad, and if I turn left and walk down the street, 4 houses, that's where J.R.R. Tolkien lived. So that's close. I went to the pub, the Eagle and Child, where all the Inklings went, you know, Lewis and Tolkien and all those guys. And that was as close as I got. Any other questions? Comments?
Well, let's give a round of applause for
Okay.
Madeline.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.